Today's Cowboys Report is presented by Vincero Collective. I'm rocking one of their watches, and you should too. Get 20% off and free shipping when you go to vincerocollective.com/chat. Tell you more about them and their awesome line of products later on in today's show. But it's a loaded mailbag. Super thanks to begin from Matt Batten. Says, sign DJ Chark from the Lions if they don't re-sign him. If looking for a vertical, speedy receiver, DJ Chark's on my list. I don't think he'd be that expensive for you. So expectations still kind of lower if you do get him because he's not a star, but he does fit what this Cowboys team needs. Rodney Douglas on a video just said, thanks. I appreciate that, Rodney. We have a rule here at the Cowboys Report. If you super thanks, we will show you some love. It's a feature to donate outside of live vids. So instead of super chatting when live, it's super thanks on demand. Click the thanks icon. You see the icon right there. It's the heart with the dollar sign in it. We appreciate your support. Any super thanks that come in, we will give you a shout out on the show. Now, Matt Batten had this comment. I hate this mock draft. It's awful. We need another offensive lineman early. If you watch the films, they say offensive lineman got beat last year too. Take Steve Avila in the first or second round. I like Banks in the second, though. Good pick, but the rest of it was trash. This is about my latest Cowboys mock draft. This one right there. It was all about how does the board shape up if you take Bijan Robinson in round one. So I am not offended that Matt did not like it. I figured people would not because you invested so much in a back, but it was to explore the scenario. If you haven't watched it, the thumbnail looks just like that. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on anything with those noties turned on. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV. Jordan Ramirez, what do you think of Jayden Reed? That is the Michigan State wide receiver. I think probably some point later on day two, although, you're late second rounds, who knows. Reed does make sense. He fits what this team needs. Now, I would be a bit worried about the size for this Cowboys team. They just seem to want bigger guys, which I don't love, but is what it is. The numbers not pop off the page. Quarterback play was bad for Sparty this year. So, that third round, maybe if you get lucky fourth round range, I do have interest in Jayden Reed. And if you sign a veteran receiver and the board does not fall your way, I would not be mad at Jayden Reed as a late day 2, early day 3 pick. I think the production in the NFL will be better than it was last year at Michigan State because the quarterback play, in theory, would be better. Timothy Morris, $10. Thank you, Timothy. Have you seen how national media have gushed over Kellen Moore like he didn't have anything to do with how bad the offense played versus the Niners? See what the offense looks without Dak versus with Dak. There's always been, this is true for a lot of different people, a bunch of different standards for different quarterbacks, different play callers. On one hand, you've got an offense that has been consistently top 3 with the Dak and Kellen Moore marriage. Yet there were moments, especially in the playoffs against the Niners, where the offense didn't work. Both of them deserve blame. I think it is somewhat telling that Kellen Moore lasted like 24 hours without a job before he got the most coveted OC job on the market. Seems kind of significant. But I don't think the narrative has always been fair around different players, not just Dak, but different quarterbacks. It often comes down to where they were drafted. But I do think there's plenty of arguments as to why the divorce from Kellen Moore was at least needed. So was it the right move? Why for yes and for no? It's the pinned comment on today's video. So when ad break comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there. Let me know. From Jeremy Chuggs' burner account, we give up every single pick in the next 2 drafts and every day 1 and day 2 pick for the following 2 years for the first 15 picks in this year's draft. If so, who would you get? From a pure value perspective, it's an absolute yes. You give up every pick this year and every day 1, day 2 pick next year, or the next 2 years, you could probably get the number 1 overall pick, the number 2, 3rd/4th overall pick. So value-wise, it's a yes. Now, as someone did point out in the comments of this super thanks, you can't draft all 15 guys. That's not, like, the money is really dicey. Just the volume is a lot. Now, could I trade one of them or 2 of them? Absolutely. I would just take, like, a starter at each position. Like, I take a new tackle, I take a new guard, I take a defensive tackle, probably 2 edges, a corner. At that point, you're kind of like, I got 15 players. I can't start all of them. It gets a little bit dicey there. You'd probably take a quarterback because you have 15 first-round picks now. you would actually have too many guys to pay and play. But if I could trade a few picks, it's an absolute no-brainer. Today's Cowboys Report is made possible by our sponsor, Vincero. I have several watches from them, including this awesome one right here. They're among the favorites that I own. Vincero designs everything in-house, sources their own materials, and produces in small batches. They are committed to doing things well or not at all. For all the boss men and women out there, their watches are a must. They can elevate your look with the twist of a wrist. Made with surgical-grade stainless steel, durable silicone, and Italian marble straps, these sleek, modern watches come with reliable and automatic Japanese quartz movements. And it's not just watches, by the way. They've got sunglasses and more. Their sunglasses are polarized with handcrafted frames and so many styles to choose from. Based on the West Coast, San Diego, GQ actually recently called Vincero their go-to brand for modern accessories, and it's easy to see why. Go check them out if you have not already. Right now. Looking for the perfect gift for yourself or someone you love? You can save 20% off and free shipping with our exclusive code CHAT at VinceroCollective.com/. That's VINCERO Collective.com/chat. Use code CHAT, 20% off and free shipping. Links in the comments section and the description of today's mailbag. From Jay Smooth, what about trading for Jerry Judy? He's still young, 23 years old. Would you move a first-round pick for him? Jerry Judy is the exact type of wide receiver I would like to get on this Dallas Cowboys team. He's a very good route runner. He creates separation. He gets open. He is still young. He's also due for a newish contract, which might be a problem for this team long-term. He does turn 24 in April, but that's still pretty young there. At a 4.45 40 is like now your fastest receiver, just like that. Outside like Kevontae Turpin, etc. I don't think Denver would do that. I would wonder if maybe Cortland Sutton could be easier to get, potentially. But I would have interest in Judy because I'm getting a borderline 1,000-yard receiver with a quarterback who played a lot better than Denver's quarterback did last year. So would you trade a first-round pick for Jerry Judy? D for deal, P for pass. Let me know in the comment section. Chris B., let's say you extend Dak and he and McCarthy struggle. What is your plan? You're going to force Dak on a new head coach? You won't get your top choice. Let me put it to you this way. If the Cowboys job came open this year, or even next year, and Dak had the exact same year he just did, compared to this past group of jobs, this would still be the best job out there. Like, there are not that many quarterbacks who are better than what you're getting at them. Maybe a team gets number one overall pick is a better job because you can get Caleb Williams, Drake May, whatever. But I would be surprised if Dak regressed again. Even this year, even with the interceptions, overall, it was still top 10 in EPA per play. If you want to condense everything down to offensive numbers there, that's still pretty good. So I don't want, if the interceptions again, I'm going to be more concerned, but there aren't that many quarterbacks with obvious jobs out there. And in the end, my concern is, and that's some concern, well, if Dak and McCarthy struggle, it's going to be Dan Quinn as head coach. So at that point, maybe they want the stability at QB. Brandon J., NFL comp for Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Taking 26 over other receivers. I think he's a pure solid state production for CD being there. Great point on the pure slot stuff. That's what worries me a little bit there. I'm hopeful that JSN has a Justin Jefferson-esque combine, where he goes, wow, wait, he ran how fast? My concern for Jaxon Smith-Njigba is that we're talking more of a mid 4.5 speed guy, as opposed to the low 4.4s that Jefferson ran coming out of LSU. My comp is Tyler Boyd, and I mean that in a good way. Tyler Boyd's been an awesome receiver in the NFL, and I think if you're being honest, probably one of the more underrated wideouts. I mean, he's got 2,000-yard campaigns in his history. Now, that number dipped a little bit, A, because of quarterback play, B, because, Higgins and Jamar Chase emerged. But if you get 1,000 yards from Jaxon Smith-Njigba, good production. I think similar, not premier athletes, I don't think, but really good route runners. And if you're in the slot, if that's your receiver too, as Boyd was for a while for Cincinnati, it's a good spot. I would guess that barring a surprise slide from like an Addison or Quentin Johnston, I think JSN would be my top receiver on the board at 26. Carter Reimer, trade for Cedric Wilson and send a second. Why am I moving that much? I'm not sending a second-round pick for Cedric Wilson. They can have my 6th-round pick. You know what they can get? They can get the 6th-round comp pick I'm going to get for Cedric Wilson. That's what they can have. Guys, Cedric Wilson had 12 catches this year. I think a great example of, does your quarterback elevate players? Massive production difference this year. I'm not moving my second. Late day 3 pick? Different conversation there. Chris Foles. Jalen Ramsey for Trevon Diggs. Straight up, who says no? I do. Not because I think Diggs is better than Ramsey. I don't think that. But because it doesn't actually help me with where I'm at. My issue is not Diggs being a corner and having to pay him, which I think might be an issue for Dallas long term. That's a future video, though. Stay tuned. It's, okay, I've swapped out my cornerback 1, and I still need help at other cornerback spots. It was that same way. It was never about, Lamb can replace Samari, sure, but how do you replace Lamb's role and then Gallup's role? It was never about the receiver 1 and cornerback 1 in this case. It's how do you figure out cornerback 2, cornerback 3? That's the concern there. Now, hypothetically, who says no? R for the Rams, C for the Cowboys. Let me know your prediction for me in the comments, or your answer in the comments section. Some more super chats. Brandon J. What intrigues you more at wide receiver? Cut Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, trading for DeAndre Hopkins or Brandon Cooks with their cap hits, possible new deals, or free agents. Okay. If cut, I'm intrigued by Keenan Allen a lot more than Michael Thomas. I kind of think Michael Thomas is borderline cooked on that standpoint. Allen can be he's a bit of a slot, which is a concern, but he's a good route runner. I like that there. Contract-wise, makes me lean towards Cooks over Hopkins, but I would not be mad if you got either of them. Move your second, make the money work. You're in better shape at receiver now. Free agents, I would go cheaper speed guy and then maybe draft someone too. A $20 super chat from Chris B. You'll love to see it. I'm just so day-to-day with Dak right now. One day I want to extend him. Next I want to move on. He'll be balls out next year. Gets loose in his championship game for the first time in 27 years. Trade for D-Hop, please. I don't think Chris B's alone on that bipolarness of the team. And I think in the end, Chris, my guess, it might have less to do with the first part of your comment about the quarterback, and maybe more to do with the 27 years of not the success we all want. I wonder if maybe that's the underlying issue, and in the end, the quarterback gets the burden of the lane, because that's how football works. It's always on the quarterback, pro or con there. So, Chris, I understand your pain, my friend. I do. From Brandon J., Byron Jones reunion. You think DQ can save his career? I would not be surprised if Byron Jones ends up being released post-June 1st style. The money just kind of starts to make some sense on that standpoint there. So I would have interest in Byron Jones. He was actually part of my perfect offseason plan because it frees up to go BPA in the draft. 1-year deal, cheap deal. I have interest. Although, please make note, Byron Jones, as you kind of allude to, not what he was at his peak with Dallas. From Max Manuel, Max Manuel. Signed Slayton and Mecole Hardman on the cheap. I don't know if you could get both of those guys on the cheap. Slayton in particular might get a bit more. It's not a good free agent market at wide receiver. That could bump up the value for a lot of different guys out there. But they fit the need. I need speed, outside threats. I think those guys can fill that role for me. So Max, 2 good names there. From Big Bob Johnson, why are you trying to cut Malik Hooker? I'm not saying cut him. This is a reference to a previous video. But I am saying probably should have been on my cut candidate list because there are savings. Can we pay for a Donovan Wilson? And the cap hit is pretty low relative to those savings. I am fine keeping him. Let me be extra clear on that front. But I probably should have raised that as a hypothetical cut candidate when we did our initial cut candidates video, because outside of the Colts game, there weren't that many big-time splash plays. All right, who do you want the Cowboys to cut? Let me know in the comment section. Any player, if you've watched our cut candidates or if not, it's on the channel, name a player you guys want the Cowboys to cut. From Brokov, what do you think of not drafting a quarterback in the top corner in the top 5, but taking 3 later guys? Who are you taking? My issue there is, didn't we just do that? where we took Kelvin Joseph and Deshaun Wright, and we found one in Deron Bland and kind of Izzy McQuamu maybe too. You have depth, need impact. I would go more towards the impact there. Last question, a super chat from Chris B., the MVP today. Diop for a second. Does that get it done? I think in general, a second does get it done. But your second is not as valuable as other teams' seconds. So you might have to give up a little bit more, plus the new contract. I ain't mad at a Hopkins trade, don't get me wrong. My expectations are low of the Cowboys actually doing it, though.